I've always been fascinated with human behavior, and I've also always had an interest in the legal system, which in my view is a pillar of society. The research that we focus on in my lab is right at the intersection of psychological science and the law. How does human behavior play out in the legal system? And how does somebody portray themselves when they're trying to appear sincere when they're not actually sincere? And on the other end, how does the person doing the assessing, whether it's a psychologist or a police officer or a juror, how do they decide whether that person is being sincere? A lot of our research has been looking at where there might be a divergence between what you think that you're seeing and what's actually happening.
Because we're counting it as a grid, so anything in this...
We've been really interested in a particular form of deception, really high-stakes deception, where the consequences of the lie are really powerful for both the deceiver and the people being deceived. And we've heard about people like Lance Armstrong and Bernie Madoff, who used deception for long periods of time very successfully. In the case of Madoff, it was, of course, to defraud people of millions and millions of dollars. What allows somebody like Bernie Madoff or Lance Armstrong to do this kind of consequential deception for so long with so many people? Most of us, I think, would fail miserably if we even thought of trying to do that. We've been amazed by the amount of so-called leakage that comes out in one's nonverbal behavior, so facial expressions and body language. Huge amount of information is conveyed through those channels that even when you're trying your best not to let that occur when you're lying, it's coming out anyway. But the receiver of the message, whether it is the police officer, the juror, the judge, often is not able to sense that kind of information. And so we're looking at this divergence and maybe how we can train people to identify that kind of leakage better. Another major topic that we've been focusing on in my lab is self-deception. Memory is a critical factor in the legal system. How somebody remembers a crime, has there been any distortion in that memory? Over the years, in many studies, we've been able to convince people over the course of a few interviews using very suggestive techniques to the extent that they recall events such as having a serious accident, serious medical procedures, having committed crimes that they have never committed. And by the end of the third interview, people are absolutely convinced of the event. They give us detailed accounts. So these are full-blown false memories and with legal relevance. And we've heard about cases in which somebody was wrongfully convicted because an eyewitness pointed at them and honestly and confidently said that's the perpetrator. What keeps me going is the big question marks that I see within the legal system that relate to human behavior. We're trying to change things for the better, in other words, to improve the legal system that is a pillar of our society, to make sure that injustices don't happen or they occur less frequently.